Hi everyone. So now we're going to start analyzing some of the data that we talked about. And I'll walk you through the way I think is best. And again, if you're comfortable with Excel, you can adjust that. There are tons of tutorials on YouTube about how to use Excel to summarize some data. I will add some of those as well, but just kind of wanted to walk through the data with you. I decided to do a staff one. I also have done a student one, which I will also share with you all once I'm done. Not the video, but the actual Excel spreadsheet. And actually, let me open that really quickly for you just so you can kind of get an idea of what it will look like. And so this one, obviously, there are a lot more students than there are teachers. But if you look here, I kind of have broken down, how many people had one for gender, how many people had two for gender, the percentage of people that had two for gender, how many students said they were in fourth grade, the percentage of students who said they were in fourth grade, and things like that. And so I'll explain a little bit about how to get all of that. So some of the things I will do are just simply for preference. You guys know me, I'm really particular. So I will show you how I would do it, and then again adjust it to meet what you think is best. So the first thing I would do is in order just for the I think it's easier to know where the data starts and stops. And so I will select all of these rows that don't have data in them up until they're clear, and I will take off all the borders, and actually I'll take them, oh sorry, put no border, and then actually I put the top border back on there just so that the bottom has a line. And again, it doesn't matter if you do this, but I am just fairly particular. And then I'm going to change it so that the cells don't go back and forth in color and make them all white. Again, that's just so I know what's going on. And then I'm going to go here and click clear contents so that all the numbers are gone. And so that just kind of cleans it up for me and makes it easier for me to eyeball. Now, in this video, you will see that, there are only 16 teachers. All of them are in here, and I could see from the top to the bottom in one screen. That won't be the case for all of them. If you remember the student data that I just showed you, there are, 100 and something participants. So one thing I'm going to show you, it won't really matter for this one, but something that will matter for your bigger ones is how to freeze the window. And so you select the row by clicking on the row outline. So for 2, I want to freeze it at the bottom of 2. And so I'll go here and then I'll just window and I'll click freeze panes. And that will just freeze it for me so I can see when I scroll down, I can kind of tell what's there. And actually, I'm sorry, let me unfreeze that because I actually want it to be a little bit lower. So I'll unfreeze the panes for 2. And then I want it to actually start freezing here. So I'll freeze them here. And so then again, you can see that I can move that. You can also freeze on the left and right side if that's something that you want to do. And so here we go. The first thing I'm going to do is just check the numbers to make sure that they're correct. And so we know that the first 2 rows are columns, so really we know that 18 minus 2 should give us 16. So yeah, it tells us that there are 16. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a column in between classification and for grade. And this is really just for my own personal preference, just to help me kind of remember what it is that I am looking at. And so for classification here, I'm going to do classified, and we'll just do a C, and then for non-classified, we'll just do NC. And then if you remember, I think we did put something for skipping data, and so we'll do skip here. And this is in that blank row because I'm going to use this to kind of summarize some of the data above here, and I would just want to have some nice little labels here. So we're going to use the COUNTIF function. And so if you remember, we said that 1 equals classified. And so the COUNTIF function will do equals, we'll type in COUNTIF, we'll do open parentheses, and the range that I want is C3, and you see it'll highlight that for you all the way to C16. I'm sorry, C18. And it'll highlight that for you. So make sure it's correct, and then we'll do a comma. And the criteria I want for this is 1. And so we'll just hit 0, and it tells me that 16 students, or 16 people said they were classified. Now, we don't really need to do it for this, but I'll do it just so you can see it. I will also do COUNTIF. Another way to add the range is to just scroll through and select it. C3 to C18, and then my criteria for this will be 0. And so remember, we said non-classified people will be 0. And then I'll also do it again for 9. So we'll again select that range and then hit 9 here. And sometimes if I'm not doing things right, it'll say, hey, you did this wrong. Do you want to fix this proposal? And for this one, I'd say yes. And again, that would give me 0. So I'm also going to look at grade. And so one of the things that I've been doing is I've been using my PDF file that we have for each student just to kind of remind me what, and that's the student file, sorry, the staff file to kind of remind me what grade levels people said that they worked with. And so here we have K, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, other. And I can't really remember how we did this, so I'm just going to do K, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We apparently did 14, which I can't really remember what that means right now. And so, again, we'll do our equals COUNTIF. We'll do the range. And then for criteria, we'll do 1. I'll do the exact same thing. And if you want, you can just copy this formula into, So I want to make sure that you guys saw what just happened. I only selected the bottom rows, and that was because after I froze the panes, I had moved it up. And so it's really important to make sure you know what number it should start on. So this one, it only did 7. You need to be doing C3. Or I'm sorry, E3. So let's go back up here. So for K, we'll do equals COUNTIF. And the range is E3 through E18, and we'll say K. I can't remember what we picked for K, so just remember you need to get that. You need to use those sheets that we created to figure that out. So I am just going to go through and paste these in here. Now you have to paste them, and I'm going to show you why. So some people will like to drag, and so if you select this and you drag it, it will copy the formula. But if you see that when you copies the formula, it will change the number by 1 number here and 1 number here, and that's because you dragged it. So for this instance, you won't drag it. There will be some where it's okay to drag, but this is not one of them. So you'll have to paste if you want to just use the copy and paste function, which I do. And then, so I will change the K here because this criteria will be 1. This criteria will be 2. This criteria will be 3. And again, I'm just changing that based on grade. 4. And here again, I need to copy and paste that formula. So for 4, we have 4. So for 5, we're going to change that to 5. And this is telling us if there's someone in 5th grade. Here is 6. And then 14, we're going to make this 14. And I believe this is other, but I am not sure right now. So we need to make sure we know that. Now here's something else that I'm going to do. I am going to highlight a few rows down. And here I'm going to sum everything in these columns. And so equals sum of everything that I've added here. And so if you remember, each row is telling us how many people said classified. So 16 people said classified, 0 people said non-classified, and 0 people skipped. And so if we have a data set of 300 or 400, which some of you might, this will count these up for me and let me know if I'm missing a number. So if this said 15, I would know that either there's something that's empty or I did a formula wrong, and I could go and double check. I'm also, and one of the really cool things about Excel is that you can drag this over. Now this is adding up, again, if you don't remember, I said that this will, when I move it, so if you see this is C19 through C27, so it's adding up this section here. When I moved it, it added up D19 through D27, and so it moved over a column just like my drag did. And I don't really need this one because it doesn't make sense for me to add grades, so I will skip that. But then here, it adds up, you know, how many people said each thing. And this is a little concerning because it's saying 13, and I'm going in here, and this is telling me that there's no blank data, so that doesn't make sense to me. So I'll go in here and just check my formula. So if you remember, it should be, what is this, E3 through E18. And so I'll go here, look, and it's E3 through 18 for K, E3 through 18 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here we go. So you see at E5, somehow I missed it, and I changed it to E4. And so here we're just going to change it back to E3 to E18 for 5. Here somehow the formula got switched off, and so we're going to do E3 to E18 for 6. And then again, the formula is messed up here, so we're going to change this to E3 to E18 for 14. And it looks like I probably dragged them because the numbers changed. And now we get 16, and so I feel a lot better about that. I am going to also insert a row into this next section here, and so I'm going to insert a column here. And here I'm just going to put yes, I'm going to put no, and I'm going to do a skip. And I'm going to do almost the exact same thing that we did before. If you remember, we'll do E equals COUNTIF, open parentheses, and the range for this is G3 through G18, and I'm just highlighting that. And I believe we used 1 for those who selected yes, and that will give us 16. So 16 people said that. And if you kind of want to remember what is it that we were actually looking at, we did yes, no, and we did if someone skipped. And so here I'm going to do the exact same formula. I'm going to do COUNTIF, the same range, criteria this time is 0. And I believe that we did this for the same range. Oh, and if you notice, I hit a plus sign, so that would mess it up completely. So equals COUNTIF. Go back through here, and then 9, and those are for skipped. That's what that all means. And so again, I am just going to summarize everything that is in this section. And I am going to do that. So I'm looking here and I notice a couple of things. There are some 2s, and I'm not quite sure what these 2s mean. And so for this, I would probably reach out to the person who coded this data to figure out what this 2 means. But for our purposes, I will go ahead and do a 2. For your purposes, you need to do a little bit more research to figure out exactly what that means. And again, we're going to do the same COUNTIF data, and then we're going to do a criteria of 2. And even though there aren't any in this row, we do want to do this for all of the rows. So now what we can do, and if you remember, if you look back at our sheet, staff climate, student perception, and behavior are all asked in yes or no formats. So I can take these formulas here, copy them, and drag them across. And they will give me the numbers. They will count this up. So each row here is telling me that someone has a 1, meaning they selected yes. Here it's telling me someone has a 0, how many people did 0, who selected no. Here it's telling me how many people skipped. And then here it's telling me how many people we have 2s for. And again, I don't know what that means. I'm also going to come down to my summary phase, and I am going to drag this across. And here I have all 16. So it tells me all the formula is in there, and I am good to go. The other thing that I would do is I would just come here and I would get the percentages of this. So here it tells us how many people selected yes. Now I want to know the percentages of people that selected yes. And so what I will do is I can do this one of 2 ways. I will do equals this row. I won't type in the number because I want it to actually figure it out for me on my own. Divided by, I can either type 16, which I'm going to do here, or I could have clicked this row. And I am going to drag this down. So equals G19. Okay, and so this is telling me 1, and so we want this in percentages. So I'm going to click these rows and click percentages, and it's telling me 100% of people said yes. Again, I am going to drag this across, and it's going to tell me how many percentages there are for everyone. Now these plus signs just mean that the column is too small to see the data, and so all you have to do is double click on the lines in between it. You can also highlight all of the rows and just double click on one of the rows, and it should open them all up. And so now you're starting to see a little bit of what's going on. The nice thing about this is, again, is we can roll up. We've frozen the data so we can see that, here 81% of people said yes for rules, 94% said fairly, and so on. So that is how I would suggest we do that for these. The next section, if you remember, are just where we had people who circled all of the things that applied. And so we put a 1 for everything that someone said applied. And so in this instance, we will just do equal sum of everything in this column. And that will add it up. So this is just telling us how many people circled failure is equal to, and then blue streak. And again, I know that 16 people took this survey, and so I can always do equals this number divided by 16 to give me a percentage. And I'm going to turn that into percent so I can know. And I'm going to drag this across, and it'll give me the percentages for each section. So again, I'm going to come here and click and look at percentages. Now, the problem behavior, if you remember, we got numbers. This is the only thing that is used in this manner. So there are a couple of things that I can do for this to check the data. So we're going to go through and we'll say, let's see what 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10 plus 11 plus 12 equals. And it equals 78. And the reason why we're doing this is just to see if everyone used 1 through 12. So for instance, if someone used 5 twice, then that's not going to equal 78, or vice versa. So we're going to sum up all of these rows. And we're getting 78, and we should get 78 all the way across, which we do. If we don't, I would probably go back and try to find these to see where the mix-up is. So now what we're going to do is we're going to average these scores together so we can get a sense of about what individuals said for each section. So we're going to average, and again, we're going to go through, and so we're getting a 6 here, and we're going to drag this across. And this is on average what people scored. And so what sticks out to us the biggest is that 10 was the highest, and we see that cell phones and headphones for teachers. And then 9 is physical altercations. And so this is how we would summarize some of the data. Now you're going to submit to the group a summary sheet. And so we want you to do it in Excel. And I would actually save this as a different file. So I'm going to do HE staff, and then I'm going to add descriptive here. And you're going to put this back in Google Drive just so that we have all of this information. But for our summary sheet, I'm going to go through and I'm going to write my total participants. I am also going to come in, and for each section I'm going to do this. And I believe that we'll probably put all of the elementary data in one file, the summary data, so we can kind of compare elementary schools. But for right now, we'll just do classification. So for classified, we had, if you remember, 100%. And that was of n equals 16. And that just means that 16 people said that they were classified. Here we'll just do 0%. And that is an n equal to 0. And your n's really should be italicized. So I'm just going to go in here and do that. That's just how that signifies that n is the number of people in the number of participants. You can do the same with grade. And then for staff climate and all of the other ones, my recommendation would be to organize these in order. So here you'd look at percentages, and you could just go through, and I would probably, and that's some of the reasons why I'm glad we have spaces, is so for 100%, it's probably 1, 2, 3, we'll do 4, and I would just do staff climate, and so I'd stop there, and then it looks like the next one is 95%, 94%, and so I do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'd write them in that order. So one of the 100% is like, and I'd do the percentage. Actually, I'd probably do the category here. I'd say percent, and I'd say number, or I'd probably just do in. And then the category here is like 100%. N equals 16 for that. And if you notice, this is throwing off the numbers now because I've added the 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, but we've already checked it, so it doesn't matter. Or you could add the numbers here at the bottom so it doesn't throw that off. And I would put those in order all the way down. So the ones that have the highest percentages. I would also do the same for each of these sections, and this is what you'll turn in. Let me know if you have questions. I hope this helps to clarify. Thank you.